And after a while, you can decide that whoever does not have an ID card and is an adult is up to mischief. He knows why he's staying away. Perhaps the fingerprints they already have, the government has these fingerprints or biometrics or something. So the point I'm making is that I think we have to get creative. You cannot hang on to 1984 romantic ideals in 2016. The realities are totally different. We are facing a very hard time. And this year, barring a miracle, economic growth is going to be less than the growth of the population, which means we are facing falling living standards for Nigerians. If care is not taken, we can be in that environment for 3 more years or even 7 more years. Because, look, raising living standards is something you have to work for. And forget about errors of the past. The number one responsibility of any government is to make good use of today's resources. If you are receiving in April $600 million only of foreign exchange, and the second reason why it's only that small is because the exchange rate doesn't encourage others to bring in dollars. And the last time I checked, the parallel market was still illegal. So how are people going to get dollars at 285 if it's still illegal? I think the government has to come together, pull in all the stakeholders, and face some home truths.
You know, I'm just wondering, because Labour is going to be meeting, as reported widely, with government today, and Labour also talking about what was said at that time, palliatives. Mm-hmm. And now this solution of yours, one wonders, why do you think this is not maybe being featured prominently or top priority if ever they're going to go ahead and remove subsidies?
I don't understand, but you remember 4 years ago, it's about political parties and their programs and their priorities. Remember 4 years ago, I used the expression fuel vouchers. What I've described is just a fuel voucher in reverse. In fertilizer, it was done via crediting mobile phones. My point is that any arrangement where you create a voucher or a payment electronic that you can deliver to the poorest people one by one is preferable to all these hazy systems that are abused by the rich and the petrol mafia. So the point I'm making is that deregulation can coexist with safety nets.
Yeah, I get that point, but because I also spoke with some of the labor leaders, they also they think that yes, the key issue for a lot of people is what to do with that fuel subsidy fund, which is part of what you also talked about, that it can be properly utilized such that the average person can get theirs. But as we are today, that's not what the focus is.
No, sorry, let me explain something. If we receive $600 million in April, which is a very low inflow in foreign currency, it's caused by a variety of things, low price of oil, probably lower production because of militancy and all sorts of things. My point is that is the more reason why you realize that we cannot afford to squander half or 2/3 of that on one item called petrol, that we know is fraught with abuse. So the point I'm making is that I think we have to take some big decisions. The government, as far as I'm concerned, from May 29 last year, had to take 3 big decisions. The one was on this TSA, this single treasury account, which was taken. The second one was on petrol subsidy, petrol and kerosene subsidy, which are clearly unaffordable. And the third one was exchange rates facing reality. They've taken one of those 3 big decisions, and I think it's time that they sat down and also took decisions on the remaining 2. What they've done with with petrol today sounds like it's a positive step in the right direction, but I wish they would just go all the way. And I think this is the government that Nigerians will believe. Even if you get up and look them in the face and say, look, gentlemen, I'm sorry, this is all we have in the kit, $600 million or whatever it is. The other thing also is that for the state governments, are you aware that about 25, 26 states can't even pay wages? Do you know why they can't pay wages? Yes, some of them you can say they fail to adjust. They have a bloated, staff strength, ghost workers and all. But there's also a serious reason. If you are converting dollars at 200 naira and effectively giving them 200 naira per dollar, and you're telling them to now buy petrol in the market at 285, and most of the goods in the market are 300 and so on, effectively you're shortchanging all the state governments. Now the governors themselves should sit down with the presidency and dialogue. Now, I know that calls for painful adjustment, but the reality is that we're in a situation, I like an old expression when they call it, there's a lady called Tina. You know what TINA stands for? There is no alternative. TINA, there is no alternative. Now, interestingly, under Yaradua, I was in the economic team, advised strongly about deregulation. It didn't happen. Under Goodluck Jonathan, I was in the economic team, advised strongly about deregulation. This time around, I think, like I said earlier, the reason for it is even stronger. The global market has changed. Our fortunes have also changed as a nation. We have three major threats that are affecting investments in Nigeria, over and above low resources. I mentioned them already. Boko Haram. We're talking about even the new threat of headsmen that cause instability in various places, and then also militancy. So the combination of a poor revenue profile plus three broad sets of risks is frightening of investors, plus an exchange rate regime which nobody understands. Do you understand who gets dollars at 200 naira to one and why?
But as it is today, there's also talk that in the next 6 months, possibly, we may just have government completely hands off that sector, and then maybe that's when full deregulation will take place. Do you think that that can happen within that time?
You know, my position generally on the economy has been that the more things government hands off properly, the more the economy functions. When our economy achieved growth rates of close to 7-8% per annum, it wasn't because the government was doing wonderful things right. It's because they were interfering less with everyday decisions and not burdening people with bad fiscal and monetary policies and so on. So I think that this government is effective. They're taking strong actions in the area of fighting corruption, taking strong actions in the area of Boko Haram, but they have to complement that on the economic side by taking the tough decisions. Because as I said earlier, there's no alternative. And also, more importantly, I think my only concern, if you notice, is what happens to the poorest of the poor. If somebody has 5 cars and has boats or yachts and wants to buy, I think he should pay even above the world market price for his petrol.
How do you determine that?
No, well, there are countries where people even impose a tax on petrol. It becomes a source for government revenue. I'm not advocating that. Let's move step by step. Let's move first to deregulation. Deregulation also does something. It makes it possible for the private sector to invest properly in refineries, to invest in the downstream properly. What we have now is that I have many friends. I don't mean to embarrass them, but they only do petrol. When you ask them, why don't you do diesel? They tell you it's too difficult. Why is it too difficult? Because it's a free market. Willing buyer, willing seller. You have to be competitive. You have to be efficient. It involves logistics. And they can handle that. But they can handle petrol because it involves playing games with NNPC or with triple PRA and claiming bridging payments. The scope for abuse is phenomenal. Please bear in mind that in banking and finance and the economy generally, all payments take place against documents. That's the general rule you must understand, which means that at the end of the day, when somebody is claiming a subsidy or a bridging payment, it's on the basis of documents that he presented. If the documents are inaccurate because people colluded, those who were supposed to check him helped to sign for something that did not happen and so on, he gets the money and he walks away.
You know, if government were to fully deregulate, there would have been a timeline, because the reason which they say this happened is because, first of all, availability of forex for the marketers to bring in products. NNPC was doing a lot of that because I think 50% of our consumption these days is imported. So NNPC couldn't handle all of those, so they had to allow marketers also source your forex from wherever you get it, sell, and then you could. That's why they put that ceiling. If we wanted to fully deregulate, do you think we would have been able to do it within the short time, or would have been a longer period?
How was it done for diesel? Do you remember? It was done overnight for diesel. When the country was done overnight. How was it done for aviation fuel? It was done overnight. Don't get me wrong. The point I'm making is that you get to a point in an economy where the price of delayed adjustment becomes so great that you can as well do it overnight. Now, I didn't say you do it overnight without talking to, you get together your constituents. You control the National Assembly. You have your ministers. You have an economic team. You pull people together, bring in the trade unions. They are not all unreasonable. Yes, a few might be unreasonable and so on, but I don't think they will get the same kind of traction. I could be wrong this time as they got last time, the trade unions. I will also appeal to the trade unions. You know, there's nothing worse than testing your strength and then you find at the end of the day that you have no followership. It's better for you to pretend that you decided on your own to meet government and negotiate and called off some action, and then you retain your...
Do you think we'll be able to get or put in place that structure, just as you advocated in 2002, wherein states, local governments will also get some sort of funds and then ensure that the people get that money? Can we also get that structure right in a short time?
Yes. Look, how was it done on fertilizer payments? It was done in a very short time. They were paying farmers, giving them credits on their mobile phones. In the short term, you may have to use mobile phones. And the beauty with mobile phones is that with NCC, working with whoever you put in charge, you can actually ensure that even though I have 2 telephone numbers, because they're both linked to me, I only get one payment. So you can actually take the numbers, pull together those who have multiple numbers, and give them one payment. I would love to see a Nigeria where the subsidy is dispensed by giving 200 naira to the richest man and 200 naira to the poorest man. And you know that in terms of trickle-down effect, that 200 naira in 1,000 places in every village is a major boost towards the local economy.
All right, not to worry. We'll be back in just a minute so that we could take more questions and perhaps also from you as well. Join us again.